Deshawn and you are watching The Book Archer. Hello all of my old subscribers and all of my new subscribers. Thank you all for joining us. I just want to take the time to thank y'all before I go into this video for all of your well wishes and all of your prayers over the last about 6 weeks or so. It has been really hard for me the last month or so, losing a family member, and thank y'all for so much for y'all patience when I took a break from filming. And we're going to start off with my September wrap-up so I can catch y'all up on everything that I've been reading. I only ended up reading 4 books and then I DNF'd another book. So we're going to start with the DNF and then just go from there. These will be in no particular order aside from the DNF. The only book that I DNF'd this month was The Last of August, which is the second book in the A Study in Charlotte quartet by Brittany Cavallero. The first book, A Study in Charlotte, I read it last year and I really enjoyed it. The main characters of the story are supposed to be descendants of Sherlock Holmes and Watson. They meet at this boarding school and there's a mystery that takes place, and whoever's going around injuring people is framing them too by using things that people know from the Sherlock Holmes stories. Everyone thinks that they're the ones that are doing it and they have to solve that mystery. Now the first book, I really enjoyed it. Book 2, The Last of August, y'all, it was not doing it for me. I DNF'd it at 61%. I only had 2 hours left in the audiobook and I just couldn't get through it. Number one issue that I have is that I did not really care for the mystery in the second book, and that's kind of like the whole point of the plot. It wasn't something that I was invested in. It didn't keep me engaged enough. The first mystery in book 1 was much more interesting, so I really wasn't enjoying that aspect. And then not only that, but the characters' behaviors in this book was very toxic. There was a lot of issues that the two characters hadn't dealt with from the first book, and you're kind of seeing the falling out of that. It was already teeter-tottering on the line of toxicity in the first book, but like book 2, it was too much for me. This whole side story is turning into the main focus and we're not really getting a good plot driven book because I just felt like it was all over the place. And not only that, you're not at the boarding school setting in book 2 either. You're in Germany, which I was excited because I think they go to different locations for each of the books. I thought that the Germany setting was going to be something that was super interesting just to kind of hear the visualizations of. Even that to me was not really done well. It's talked about, but the book lacks atmosphere, it lacks direction, and the mystery wasn't interesting. That's just too many different elements. So I was planning on reading the entire quartet, but I just couldn't get through book 2, so I'm officially done with that. I also think that I will be doing a video on series that I won't be continuing and series that I'm currently reading. But yeah, that was a DNF for me. It was a no-go. The next book that I want to talk about that I read in the month of September is Cinderella is Dead by Kaylin Barron. Now this is one that was highly anticipated for a lot of people. It came out earlier this year and it had a lot of hype surrounding it. Let me let y'all look at the cover. So the main character, Sophia, lives in the kingdom that Cinderella used to be the queen of. So this takes place like 200 years after Cinderella's original story, and each year in this kingdom all the girls have to go to like this ball to be chosen, but then if you're not chosen, mysterious things happen to you and all kinds of crazy stuff. However, the main character does not want a Prince Charming. She is in love with her best friend. A lot of things start to happen throughout the story and you basically get to see how Sophia rebels against the monarchy or what have you, and how everything goes from there. I thought the premise of this was so great. I liked the whole idea of it actually being the same kingdom that Cinderella was from. When you first start the story, the way that Kaylin Barron really describes this kingdom and how much influence Cinderella has on the present day, you really get to see that. So she builds a strong foundation of the setting. I fully understood and had a good grasp of everything, but I feel like the story started high and then it went low because you have this amazing headstrong character, Sophia, and then you get introduced to some of these side characters who I think are going to play a bigger role in the story than they actually do. And then it kind of like fizzles out because a lot of things get predictable, and not only that, but I figured out multiple plot twists while I was reading the story, and I just kept thinking like, okay, go ahead and get to it. Now it's a fairly quick read, so maybe I just had my expectations too high. So I was a little bit disappointed by that, which is why I only ended up giving it 3.5 stars. However, I feel like this book is very, very feminist. This is such a good like way to infuse feminism and fantasy. And I think the author did a phenomenal job with that. I do feel like the villain was a little bit flat. Gave me like Disney Channel movie vibes. I enjoyed it, but I didn't love it like I wanted to. However, if she writes other stories that are kind of set in these retelling worlds that she's creating, I absolutely will continue to read them. After DNFing the last of August, I was really in the mood for a good mystery. September had just started, the weather was changing, and I decided to pick up an OG classic, and that was Murder on the Orient Express by Agatha Christie. Y'all, first, like, who am I? First of all, y'all already put me onto the guest list earlier this year and helped me realize I liked whodunit style mysteries, so I decided why not go to one of the originators, one of the classics. So yes, your girl read, I guess, which would be considered a classic. Your girl read a modern classic this month. I read an Agatha Christie book, and I read like a mystery all in one. Who am I? Who am I? Spoiler alert, I loved it. I read it in one setting. It was a breeze, and the mystery was so interesting to me. I really think I liked the luxury train setting of it. I really like books that are set in between like the early 1900s, especially the 1910s, 20s, and 30s. And this book takes place in the 1930s, and for some reason in my mind I was thinking like, oh yeah, this is a historical fiction, but when I looked, the book was originally published in 1934, so I'm like, oh, this was actually modern at the time. But anywho, so the Murder on the Orient Express, if you don't know, follows this main character who is a detective. He is on a train ride trying to go to, I think, London to help solve some case. However, while he's on the train ride, someone dies on the train. So obviously the train hasn't been anywhere. The killer is still on board. So you're going through the story, seeing him interviewing like all the train passengers and trying to figure out who is the one that murdered this other passenger. I thought that it was so phenomenal. I liked the way the story was set up. You really got to see how each person could easily be the killer, and you're sitting there trying to figure out, okay, well maybe it's this person, and trying to put the pieces together. I like the way Agatha Christie set up the story, where the plot just slowly gets added on layer by layer, and then everything is explained to you. So it gave you moments to kind of really think that you were the one solving the mystery, the way that she wrote the perspectives. And then it was like one of those classic reveals that I love, when you get all the characters together. I think I just really love the familiarity of it. And not only that, but I also loved the fact that I had no idea. Like, once I got to the end of the book and you find out who the killer is, I was shook. I was like, okay, because in my mind I'm thinking this is a classic. This is how they were writing mysteries however many years ago. I'm going to be able to figure this out before it gets to the end of the story, and I didn't. On the Orient Express, I really enjoyed it. I will be reading another Agatha Christie book. I also tried to watch the movie and I thought that it was awful. I will be watching like the old 1970s movie to see if I like that one better. I heard it's truer to the story. I give that one a 4 out of 5 stars. And then the last book that I finished in the month of September is the first book in this Fly Girls Pocket series, which is Fly Girls Luxe, the New Girl. So this is I think it's supposed to be 4 books in this series, and as explained via me watching Ashley at a Bookish Realms channel, Ashley's the librarian. The way that she explained it is like these little pocket sized books and things like that are for people who are in this specific age range, like whatever age range the book is about. For example, this is young adult. However, this is if someone is a young adult but they're not reading at a young adult grade level. That way they can still read about subject matter that they can relate to and characters that they can relate to without having to read middle grade or read children's books if that's not something that they're interested in. But yeah, so this is the first book in a 4-book series, and it's supposed to follow these 4 girls who all go to this performing arts school, and you kind of get to see their background stories and how they all come together. I was interested in reading this one because Ashley Woodfolk has another novel about a best friend relationship that gets broken up, and I don't really see a lot of stories that really have to do with like 2 best friends falling out, and I wanted to try out her writing with these first before I checked out that other book, and I really enjoyed this. You can fly through this, you can read it in one sitting. I think that I was not expecting the story to be as developed as it was. So this follows Lux, and Lux has been kicked out of a couple of different schools because she's having a lot of anger issues right now due to some things that happened with her mom and dad. Mom gives her an ultimatum and said, listen, it tells her basically her only other option aside from going to military school is to go live with her dad, and she has to go to this new school that he's enrolling her in, but you know, if she messes up that time, then she got to go to military school. So this is basically her journey on trying to get her life on track and the push and the pull of that, how she really tries to deal with some of the issues that she has, a journey to kind of like her little self-discovery, just adjusting to a big life change. I think that this book did a good job of packing in a lot of stuff in a short amount of time. You got to see how she deals with like blended family. You got to see some of the effects of her anger issues and how those things really affected her daily life. You got to see her really putting energy into her passions and things, and you got to see her taking a chance and leaps of faith in forming new friendships. Now, the only thing that I did not like about this book was the ending. I didn't hate the whole ending, but I really did not like how the conflict within the friend group was resolved at the end, because it very much gave me pick me vibes, and I don't know if the way that Lux solved the issue that she was having with her friends was to her benefit, especially when it was so important for her to be doing the right thing. And I don't really know how I feel about some of the chances that she took with jeopardizing some of the things that she had going on for this friend group. I don't want to say too much because obviously the book is not that long, but that was the only issue that I had with it. But other than that, I enjoyed it. It's a solid 3.5 out of 5 stars. Those are the 4 books that I read in the month of September. I do have a few more videos that were pre-filmed that I still need to edit and get up. But yes, I hope y'all are ready for a lot of content this month. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter and Instagram at theBookArcher, and I will see y'all in my next video.